percent of those. But these are free tools we use, we love them, I highly recommend them. And again, they help you organize your social media so that you can get to the reporting. And then there's paid stuff. And there's a new paid product probably every month. I've reviewed quite a few of them and used many myself. There's Hootsuite Pro, Lithium, Radian 6. That's a really popular one, but it's very expensive. Vocus, also kind of on the expensive side, it's tied into PR. Tracker, Alterian, Adobe Social Analytics, which is built upon the Omniture Site Catalyst platform. Again, a very expensive paid platform, but pretty powerful, and many others popping up each month. So we're not going to talk about paid ones. I'm trying to give you guys stuff you can go home tonight or this afternoon and actually start using immediately. That's my goal. Okay, how are we doing on time? Pretty good. Okay, reporting. So let's talk about, again, what are we going to report at the end of the day? That was the value of tools for reporting and measuring social media. So what we're going to do is we want to report those KPIs. Those are those traditional metrics we talked about early, fans, likes, tied to the things that really matter to our business. Transactions, things like signups, conversions, landing page things, or even sales. So we want to report those things correlated to social media. And then we want to also report case studies, engagement, sentiment, and then our successes and failures. All four of these things paint the full picture. You can't just do one of them. You're not telling the full story. So it's important to figure out how to package and combine all of these together. And you're going to do that through dashboards and through some canned or exported reports. And I want you to also talk about failures. Failures are important because it makes you human and it makes your boss believe you. If all day long you're trumpeting your successes, at some point they're going to say, well, is it all really true? I mean, it can't all be rosy. No, you're going to have some failures. And I define failures into two buckets. The first bucket are things you did that didn't work. A promotion on Facebook. You have a couple thousand followers, you spent a lot of time and effort getting, you post a coupon code, and one person buys whatever you were selling. And you were hoping 10. So that might be a failure. You need a report on that. That shows where you need to improve and where you should be spending your time. So your ROI for that campaign may have been negative. Okay? So the other bucket of failures is what you had no control over that failed. And it's not necessarily a failure per se. Maybe there was a customer who had a negative experience and they went online and they told lots of people about it, or they complained anonymously on one of those crappy sites I mentioned earlier. So you should report on that. We had 5 complaints last month. The reason that's important is A, it deflects it off of you. No, but in seriousness, it's important because it represents where your business has an opportunity to improve and where your risks are. So for instance, for us, if within a month we see a number of complaints, tweets, Facebook posts, whatever, on financial aid, we know, geez, what's going on in our financial aid department? We can call up the dean of that department, the head of that department, and say, we're getting more complaints than normally. What's going on? And they can say, well, here's what happened. So that really helps you communicate to the organization and identify those risks and opportunities. Engagement and sentiment, we talked about that, so I'm going to show you an example. These are the different examples I'm going to show you. And then case studies, really, really important to talk about case studies. As we said before, not everything you do has a quantitative counterpart, meaning I ran a campaign and we had 6 signups, 15 visits, and 500 views. That would be really easy. Some of the things we do are based upon processes and activities, and a case study may be more appropriate to measure and report on that particular experience. And so when I talk about case study, it's not like a 3,000-word essay. We do one-page case studies at the university, and I'm going to show you an example of one. And then you've got your dashboards here. So, okay, what we're going to do first is I'm going to be switching to the laptop and moving back and forth a little bit. So let me see which thing we're going to show first. So let's talk about example 1 here, a case study. And so I think what I can do here is pull up a case study for you guys, and we can talk about it a little bit. Okay. And let's try and zoom in a little bit. This is a real case study. I'm not making this up. Basically, what we're doing, this is 1 page. If your case study is longer than a page and you expect people to read it, stop. They're not, right? Think about how many newsletters we get and emails every day. Now think about your executives. If you really want them to read it, you need to say everything that you need to say in 2 sentences. And if they want to learn more, provide details. That's what I'm talking about, a case study. So for us, there was, we were listening. Part of our strategy, again, is listening. And I'll just read this to you in case you can't see it. But basically, a member of our marketing team who wasn't responsible for social media. But because everybody's trained in marketing to deal with social media, everybody's listening. It's a team effort. A member of our marketing team discovered a post on an obscure forum, govloop.com. It's only obscure because I hadn't heard of it, right? If I've heard of it, then geez, it's not obscure. But no, seriously, govloop.com, it wasn't something we normally listen to. Like Facebook, we're listening to every minute of every day, it seems like. But govloop.com, I hadn't heard of it until this case study. Our staff member saw an interesting post and sent it to our social media team. They knew how to do that because they've been trained. We've had training university-wide by our team. And so the post was a question regarding American Military University, which is our school there, and our disaster management program. The social media team, Keisha, Nicole, and folks, following our standard operating procedures, engaged the user. The result of the engagement was a new student enrollment. Okay, so, and then we explain it below. And basically what happened was, we had a coworker see this post, and they sent it to us. We have university ambassadors. Many of you who went to brick and mortar schools probably think of the university guides or the tour guides, right? So we don't have tour guides, but we have ambassadors, people that are our students that evangelize the university. They're not compensated, they're just kind of our cheerleaders. And we have an ambassador in that program. So what we did is we emailed our ambassador of the disaster management program and said, hey, there's this post on this forum called govloop.com. Can you check it out and maybe reply? And so the student ambassador did that. And when they did that, they engaged this prospective student and said, hi, you know, I'm an alum of the program. Be happy to answer any questions, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check out that program, the Disaster Management Program's LinkedIn group, where there's 1,200 students, alumni, and faculty, I think it's 1,500 now, on LinkedIn, and they'll answer all your questions. So, long story short, a couple weeks later, the student tweeted back, or not tweeted back, but posted back, thanking the student for that information, saying that they had joined the LinkedIn group, had a great conversation with a faculty member and a couple of students, and decided to enroll.
That's awesome.
That is our ROI of social media. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you calculate that in a number? Well, we can say we had 52 engagements, and one of them led to enrollments, but do we really know the other 51 engagements? No, they were influential perhaps. So it's important to document these, so when somebody says, what's the ROI of social media? Instead of saying your mom, you could hand them a 1-page case study and say, this is the ROI of social media. And any executive will understand that. So it takes about 10 minutes to write one of these up. Do it every time you have a big win. Now I will also tell you, you want to do them when you have a negative experience. So I'm going to show you a negative case study really quickly. We're human, so we have them. Okay. Facebook complaint case study, November 2011. Okay, what happened? If you go to our Facebook page, we have 105,000 students. Now, not all of them are on Facebook, but you can only imagine at a university with that many students, some are going to be unhappy. Somebody's going to get an F for missing an exam and never heard back from a professor, or they got a D and they didn't get any feedback on the paper. They're going to be upset. 20 years ago, all a student could do is maybe talk to their advisor or their dean. Now they can go online and spill their guts. So we had an experience where, again, 2 sentences, maybe 3 here. A member of our marketing team discovered a post on our official Facebook page calling out a staff member by name, complaining about the service he had received. A series of events then transpired which escalated in posts actually being deleted by us. Ultimately, the student's issues were resolved, and he returned to Facebook both apologetic and grateful for the high level of customer service provided to him. Wow, talk about turning somebody unhappy and then making them apologize for being unhappy. That's like a double win, right? Good job, Nicole. So what happened? All right, so they were having issues with, what was it? Oh, financial aid. Anytime money is involved, people get unhappy real fast. We were actually helping this student before November when they came to Facebook and said, hey, I'm having an issue with financial aid. They were real cordial about it. Offline, we emailed them and said, hey, send us a note. We'll try to escalate it for you. Clearly, that didn't help. And a couple weeks later, he returned to Facebook and just went nuts. So I think there was swearing, there was threats. He mentioned staff by name. These were all violations of our Facebook policy. And we have a policy to post it on our Facebook page and on our website. Keep it simple. We just basically outline the rules of engagement, saying, you know, you can't spam, you can't solicit, you can't swear, you have to be polite, the basics, right? Just don't do anything that your mom would see and you'd be okay with it. That's kind of the rule. So they violated that, so we deleted the posts. When we delete our posts, by the way, we take a screenshot so we have evidence and we keep the screenshot in a safe location. And then we posted back, we deleted your post because it violated our policy. If that continues, we typically then ban a user. You need to have a policy for that, so when the time gets to that point, you're not making rash decisions. You have it all planned out and justified, and your CEO doesn't say, why did you start deleting posts, right? You can say, well, we deleted them because they were swearing. So we deleted it. So when you delete posts on Facebook, that has to be your last resort, because you need to think like a chess player. What is going to happen? Anticipate the next move. Anybody guess what happens when you delete a post on Facebook? Right, they want to know why, and then they go right back to Facebook, and it gets a lot worse, right? So you need to anticipate that. So this student then called student services, financial aid. I think they were calling secretaries and admins and deans, ranting, leaving phone messages saying, you deleted my post, that's unacceptable, it's arbitrary, you know, F you, and I'm gonna drop out of the university, you guys suck, eat my shorts type of thing. I mean, it was pretty bad, right? And we get those. We're a real university, we get that sort of thing. So we sent an email to the student, we explained the social media policy, it's in black and white, it's right there. We explained that we're trying to help you. If you want to work with us, let us help you. We escalated the issue to the right people at the university. They were able to solve his problem and clear up the confusion. Because we kept calm and were helpful and we were empathetic, we empathized that the student was having an issue. We were not defensive and we were very transparent. The student ultimately came back to us and said, thank you so much, I'm really sorry for my behavior. They were embarrassed, right? So sometimes that's part of the game. So writing up a case study about that really helped us, and it helped explain. Question?
Do you have background and details? What else? Do you have any other sections that you typically...
Yeah, it would help if I showed you, right? We have a conclusion. That's it, right? So 1 page. The conclusion is basically justifying the results of our action. It's the ROI statement. So the background explains the incident and how it was resolved. The details go into the details. And then our conclusion, right, we just keep it really simple. And this is a long conclusion. Usually my conclusions are like 2 sentences. This one just says, our monitoring, triage, and escalation procedures played a key role in diffusing and resolving this issue. Because all of those were used, we want to justify the amount of time we spent building those policies and show people, yeah, we actually follow them and they actually work. How many times have you created documents and done training sessions, and then you never revisit them again, right? So this kind of helps us explain why we do what we do. So those are examples of case studies. Let's go back here. Okay, engagement and sentiment. So let's see. So if you're not great at Excel, this is not that difficult to use, and I'm happy to send you the spreadsheet if you just DM me or go to my blog and ask for it. This is our social media engagement dashboard. Now, I've kind of protected the innocent here, and I've obfuscated some of the data. So this is not actual real data. I've just kind of made it up. What I'm doing here is I'm tracking sentiment over time, and I've got a little chart here, negative, neutral, and positive. And you can kind of see it, right? The negative is red, the positive is green, and everything else is blue. That's that bell curve I was talking about, so now it should kind of make a little bit more sense. So I'm tracking it all time, and then the last 7 days to see if I see any trends. And then over here I have by platform. So we spend most of our time on Facebook, Twitter, blogging, and then forums, and then miscellaneous. So basically every time we have an engagement, we're just tracking where it was, and that just shows us where all the action is, okay? And if we then correlate this engagement to our ROI metrics, for instance, referrals to our website, and we see that we're getting no e-commerce out of Facebook, or we're getting no referrals from Facebook, maybe we should be spending less time. So why are we spending, it looks like 73% of our time on Facebook, so we want to justify that. And again, I have it for all time and then the last 7 days. And then down here I have by type. We only track 2 things. You could track a few others, I suppose. We have posts and replies. So how much of it are we pushing and how much are we reacting? So you can see it's actually, for us here, it's, well again, I kind of made this data up. So it's split here pretty evenly. Okay, so how do you actually track this up? So obviously these are just pie charts. This is the simplest, I'm going to make this bigger. This is the simplest spreadsheet you could ever create. Date, so, you know, pretty obvious. Platform, you just put in what platform you had your engagement on, your interaction type. Remember we said reply or post, and then the sentiment level. And we put a little note in there so we can go back to it. That's an optional field. You don't need the note for the report. We like the note because you can see how many fields we already have, 2,500. So if you're really good at note-taking and you know you answered a question by that TPS report cover sheet requirement, but you can't remember what the answer is, you can just do a quick, you know, find in your spreadsheet and say, oh, I answered that last year and here's the answer. So that's sometimes a good idea. For us, we just kind of put what we did, but you could also put your answer in there, and that's why we have this little more category hiding, but you can see we don't really use it that often. Now we got fancy with our spreadsheet, and so what we did was we created little Excel drop boxes, so that way when people, when our social media folks, they don't have to do anything but just click a drop down box, say okay it's Twitter, it was a post or, a post or a reply, so they can select that. And then the the sentiment, was it neutral, positive, or negative? You can build all that in Excel. It's free. You can just use Excel's help to figure out. Just type in drop-down box, and they'll help you figure that out. And again, this dashboard is just based upon that. So again, what this is telling me, I kind of warned you not to make too many decisions based upon this all by itself, because you're always going to have that negative. And it's always going to represent a larger piece of your pie than reality is, because most of your customers are neutral. They're happy with their service, but they don't have any need to go to the internet and say something. So most of your stuff is going to be here. So this engagement is important to us. It shows us where we're spending our time, where the action is, where we should focus, and then by type, are we being reactive or proactive? So, okay, questions?
Do you have any carrots or sticks for your staff to get them to complete
No, we don't. Other than the fact that if they don't, they're not doing their job. Yeah, Nicole's going to buy you a drink afterwards. Actually, in the education world, we are not allowed to compensate employees who are customer or student facing. It's a regulated, education is a highly regulated space, so we don't, but that could be something that you could do. I saw another question over there.
So I would have thought naturally that when you're measuring sentiment, you mean the sentiment of public who's posting about you, but it looked like on your spreadsheet, when I looked at what you're deemed neutral and positive, it seemed like you're actually measuring what your staff, whether what they had said was positive or negative or neutral. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you measuring?
We're measuring what other people are saying. If it wasn't
So
communicated
what the
there.
public is saying, and engagement is what your staff is saying? Is that
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Question.
So when you're actually having a conversation, since that's a main goal on social media, do you record that I made this post and then this person replied to me? But if this person asks you a question, do you put it under reply or post when you reply
Right.
back?
It would be a reply, and we try to track every single touch point. So if we reply 6 times, we try to record it 6 times. It depends. If they say thank you at the end, right, you don't need to record that. It's completely up to you on how you want to do it. You can record interactions as one complete engagement. So if it was 15 comments back and forth, you can count that as one engagement. It started out as somebody posting a question, so you would calculate that as a reply. Even though there was a thread, it's just one entry in your spreadsheet. It was positive, and it was on Facebook. So you can kind of aggregate that up.
I've got a few questions, but I'll just ask one right now. It seems like your main theory about ROI is very qualitative, and as I was joking here with the person here, it's like the finance person would kind of go, oh, yeah, right, that's ROI. But it seems very similar to PR or customer service. Can you take it to a finance person and say this is similar to things in the past, and apply customer service and PR for an ROI?
Yes. So so the quantitative stuff, we're gonna do some quantitative stuff in just a minute. So hopefully I'm gonna answer that question with a few things I'm gonna show you in a minute. If I don't, then call me out on it and I'll try to clarify. So this is a simple sentiment dashboard, and what I want to do is next I'm going to show you our KPI dashboard. So hopefully this will be a little bit more quantitative. So you can tell I don't spend a lot of time making Excel look pretty. You can do that if you want. This is our communities dashboard. Again, I've obfuscated the data, so it's not real data. Directionally, it's kind of. Okay, what we're looking at here are all the things we do. There's something on here called MySpace. I've never heard of that. Ouch. Justin Timberlake, my hero. And then we have it by month. So you need to figure out the frequency of what you want to track. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. If you're a small business and you have 25 followers on Facebook, tracking that daily doesn't make sense, right? So figure out the frequency that works for you. Like I said, we have a lot of social media presence and we still do just monthly. Over here, what we're doing here is this is the KPI for the particular site that we monitor. So this could sound a little confusing, but basically for Facebook, it's the number of fans. For Twitter, the number of followers. For LinkedIn, it's the members. MySpace, it's the number of members. iTunes. We have an iTunes University page which has like lectures, webcasts, and things like that. So that's a number of views or downloads of our iTunes U stuff. YouTube video views, Vimeo video views, and then blogs is the number of visits. So all those metrics are different. So it doesn't make sense to really sum or total them. So this is just a directional dashboard. Now down here, data is all and good, but we're very visual people. And making sure that you can communicate that outward in a visual manner might make a little bit more sense. So what you can see here is each of these sites has its own line, and you can see the trend. And what I've illustrated in this graph is like, oh, I didn't see it in the table, but there was a clear spike somewhere around April. where we had a lot of activity, and then we kind of dipped back down to normal, and then we've slowly grown, and there was a little pipe there, and it's kind of plateaued the last quarter of the year. So you can kind of go back to April and be like, well, what did we do in April? Maybe we had a big product announcement, or the university had a big announcement, or you had a new product launch. So this helps you look at that over time. And again, the numbers, the scale doesn't really matter, so you can kind of ignore that. It's just the trend line you want to look. Hopefully you're trending upward. What if I did this graph? And so graph type is really, really important, because if I change this graph into a bar graph, I mean, that's not useful, is it? It's comparing each different platform. Do I really care tweets versus, iTunes U downloads? No. So it's really important that you spend some time learning how to use the different tools in Excel for communicating charts. This is not useful, but that trend line tells a great story. So Control Z, my favorite key, and we're back to our graph that tells a story here. Okay, so you'll notice down here, if you can see, I've got these extra tabs now. I've got one for each platform: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, MySpace, etc. And what you can see here on the left, these are all the different Facebook pages. I told you we have a lot of social media presence. We have pages for all of our different schools and programs, so criminal justice, legal studies, hospitality, homeland security, and then our main school pages. And basically, again, I've changed the data around a little bit, but what we're tracking here is the total each month. We just, at the end of the month, count up, plug it in the spreadsheet. And then what we do is a delta, month over month gain. So if you look at the November number versus December, it was only a 2% gain. So you can see it gained about 1,000, so it's about 2% of 52,000. But you can see September over August grew by 63%. So now what you can do is you can see a trend on Facebook. Well, geez, we really grew on Facebook. What did we do? What worked? And you can go back. So as a university, maybe we sent every student an email saying, hey, join us on Facebook, and that drove the action. So you can do that. Again, we just did a little delta month over month, totals, and then you can see when we launched different groups, we started tracking them over time. I'll show you one more for Twitter. Same concept. These are all our different handles. And then the total number of followers, and then the delta is just the growth. And again, this doesn't tell the complete story, but if we pair it with a case study saying that we had a student ask us a question and we resolved it and they're happy now, that's a win. So do a case study on that and say when we, or if you're doing a promotion and you post a coupon code or an announcement and you get a lot of people to your website, you can measure that. You can say, well, in January, we did an announcement on Twitter and we had a 300% increase in people clicking from Twitter to our website. So that is some of that quantitative ROI you can communicate out. So again, this is just a really easy spreadsheet. You can create all of these tabs, and then the dashboard is driven right off of this tab. So if you're really good with Excel, you can see that I'm just pulling from the Vimeo spreadsheet and then a total column. So pretty easy to do. I can send you kind of a template for this if you send me a message, but it's really easy to figure out, and you just plug in your numbers. Okay. So example 3 we just did. So we're doing pretty well on time here. I promise I'll stop in a minute and take some more questions. I really want to move into canned reports because one of the most important things that I think you'll be able to take away from today, hopefully, is earned media and quantifying that value to your organization, and that's at the end, so you really have to stay awake. Let's talk about, I'm going to skip canned reports, and I want to talk about share and education. This is a really important component of what you're doing in social media. I look around the room, and it's a diverse crowd, right? Social media, both in age and ethnicity, and I'm sure organizationally, I saw where some of you guys work. Social media is pervasive, and it's important that we don't just jump on the bandwagon and do something just for the sake because everybody else is doing it. So that's why we're talking about measuring. But sharing and educating is just as important because there are other people in your organization that maybe pay your paycheck, that write your paycheck, that want to know that they hired you for a good reason. And so what we do at the university is we regularly educate employees who are not in marketing and who are not involved in social media at all with what we're doing. And we share some case studies. We have a conference call where people can see fancy charts and can see how it might affect them. But also it's important for your executives. And I mentioned earlier that if you do a case study, it needs to be short because executives have a short attention span. So what you want to do when you're communicating to those decision makers above you is highlight reels. So what we do at the university is we put together a quarterly report. So we just do it 4 times a year. And the quarterly report is a document where we talk about each platform that we're actively engaged on. We talk about YouTube, we talk about Facebook, Twitter, etc. And we highlight the stuff or the accomplishments or the failures that we had that previous quarter. So we say on YouTube we had 32 new videos uploaded and visits grew 32%. On Facebook we say we had 300 engagements, 98% positive, 2% negative, or whatever. So we kind of sum everything up as a story, and we tell a story. We put an introduction that sums up the quarter. The quarter for us was really good. We had a lot of great wins. We had customer service issues we were able to resolve timely. We got a couple shout outs. We might have a screenshot or a clip of something somebody said. Thank you so much for helping me. On Facebook. So we just tell the full story. We kind of summarize in a page or two what we did the last couple months. And then at the end we might clip on a couple pretty charts that just shows that growth like I did there, or maybe it's a Google Analytics report or a Facebook Insights report. It's important not to just attach a report without explaining it. So you want to make sure that you're telling that story and communicating it really well to your executives. They will really appreciate it. The only caveat I have for you is that if you start doing something on a quarterly basis, people are going to expect it. So don't bite off too much. Start small. Start with a quick summary. Question?
So how do you prepare executives for the realism of social media? What I mean by the realism, I mean, hey, we got a social media initiative. Throw a switch, sit back, watch everybody pour in.
Yeah.
I dealt with this on a regular basis. Where I would give my reports, and my executive kept saying, well, why aren't our numbers growing? Why aren't our numbers growing? And I'm trying to cultivate, how do you explain to them, well, we've got a community, now we need to cultivate it, then we can concentrate on growth. But executives, at least the ones that I dealt with and some of the clients that I dealt with, is like, no, I want growth, I want growth, I want growth. They're expecting those million views, like the FedEx guy who was
right. They want the viral video. They want the
Exactly.
advertising
That's
video.
How do you prepare executives for that?
It's a great question, and unfortunately, there's no silver bullet to that, right? Obviously, but what it goes back